Well, before we go to John Howard, the Morrison saga continues, and sadly, whatever legacy he left has most probably now been trashed. He's not improving the situation by press conferences in which his answers appear ridiculous. He was asked today why he didn't tell Karen Andrews that he had assumed joint responsibility for Home Affairs. He firstly said he'd already answered the question, but then he said, quote, "Those powers were exercised by a democratically elected leader and were done so lawfully by me," unquote. That's called foot in mouth. So he did exercise powers, which the Parliament and his party and his cabinet believed were the prerogative of the Minister Andrews. Well, then he was asked what he was apologising for, if he believed his decision to take up the portfolios was prudent and right. After all, he did say he was sorry for, quote, "the offence that was caused," and that, quote, "I regret the offence." But in answer to the question about Karen Andrews, he said the powers designated to him were, quote, "exercised lawfully by me." Yet in the next answer, he refers to the exercise of those powers as an offence, and "I regret that offence." It is a man out of his depth, I'm sorry. The fact is, as Prime Minister, he sought from the Governor-General and was given portfolio responsibilities exercised by his colleagues. He didn't tell his colleagues, he didn't tell the Parliament, he didn't tell the voter. Somehow, he was able to maintain secrecy, and when asked, why did you deceive the Australian public and the Treasurer and the Finance Minister about this, he argued that the country was in, quote, "a rather extreme situation," unquote. But hang on. He took on administrative powers for industry, science, energy and resources in April 2021, which cut across the role of 3 other ministers. He took on Treasury and Home Affairs in May last year, over a year after coronavirus had hit. Hardly a rather extreme situation. Elsewhere today, he said, "We understood to be acting completely lawfully," unquote. Who's we? Scott Morrison and the Governor-General. No one else knew. Which brings us to a very important point, or several points, which bear no relationship to any argument that all this is some hatchet job on Scott Morrison. This behaviour raises questions about the operation of the Constitution to a level of scrutiny not seen since the dismissal in 1975. The matter to be addressed is how the Prime Minister exercised a power in the administration of the country that no one knew existed. Are such ministerial appointments and arrangements likely to be made again? How do we know the answer is no? It was clear from everything that I was hearing prior to the last election that the electorate did not trust Scott Morrison. I told you 12 months ago that he couldn't win the election. But can we trust the Governor-General? What are his constitutional obligations? His defence yesterday didn't demonstrate a high intelligence quotient. The Prime Minister of Australia goes to the Governor-General seeking authority to enter into secret arrangements which would enable him to override the decisions of Cabinet colleagues, and the Governor-General doesn't blink? What advice did he seek about the constitutionality of all of this, let alone the appropriateness, to say nothing of the secrecy? Well, according to Governor-General Hurley, he didn't have to know. Quote, "The Governor-General signs an administrative instrument on the advice of the Prime Minister," unquote. So why do we need the Governor-General? So, if the Prime Minister advised the Governor-General to swear in another 20 members of his party, that is, buy them off, so to speak, because the Prime Minister might be facing a no-confidence motion, and he gives them all a Guernsey so they'll vote for him. So, Governor-General, I've created 20 new portfolios, EDR stuff. Does the Governor-General say, yes, I've acted on the advice of the Prime Minister? This is primary school nonsense.